Frederick, Maryland, to visit my mother on her, on her 75th birthday. Really?
So what is the difference between 2011 and 2014 event? 2014 event is.
So 2014, I haven't given up. I'm forced into bankruptcy. Why? So the criminal charges are dropped in the middle of June, after I'd proven my innocence on March 12th. The only time I ever talked to a criminal lawyer, I walked through every page of the notebooks and showed exactly the story I'm telling you, and proved that the perpetrators of the crimes were, these people I'm mentioning. So at any rate, the charges don't get dropped. My lawyer's made into a judge and removed from my case. The judge is proven to have been bought and paid for by the head of our institute, and then he's actually convicted of campaign fraud for Harry Reid and sentenced to something right in June of 2012. The charges are dropped without prejudice. And what I'm told is the next time they will kill you. And I'm told that I'm not allowed to do Facebook. I'm not allowed to say a word. I'm not allowed to do any kind of social media or talk to anyone until the statute of limitations is up. And so then they're bringing their civil case to a damages hearing that was supposed to be September 4th of 2012. And I go with my bankruptcy lawyer and I actually go with my civil lawyer, who I name in the book, and my criminal lawyer and a bankruptcy lawyer, the same person, David J. Folan, here in Ventura. So we went into the office with my husband, and my civil lawyer says, I said, okay, I'm ready with my 97 witnesses, which included Tony Fauci, 97 witnesses, the highest level of the government, to prove not only did I not do what you said I did nothing ethically wrong, and this was all a big cover up on this. And my lawyer, the civil lawyer, said, I won't go. And I said, and he said, do you think if you go and you testify against your employers, these powerful people who, literally bought Harry Reid more than one office, and in the Senate, I don't think he was ever legally elected. At any rate, scary thought. At any rate, it happened long before I met them in the 5 years, and it probably will go on forever. But at any rate, he said, if you go there and you present and you testify and you show everything we know to be true, the minute you step on the courthouse steps, you will be arrested because they will have found new evidence, and you'll be jailed in Nevada and you'll never get out. And I said, oh, that's ridiculous. There is no new evidence. And he looked at me and said, there was no evidence the first time, was there? And and I still do it to this day. The only time I cried. And he said, if you file bankruptcy right now before that hearing, then the charge is the civil case is stayed. So it never goes to a damages part, and your bankruptcy will simply say you lost your grants. It won't say you did anything wrong. There's no any kind of anything against you ever, and you can go out and live your life. And it was, I did not want to do it. And, then, these powerful people literally committed fraud in bankruptcy court and said I owed $15 million and I'd committed intellectual property theft, and I'd admitted to it. And they used Science, the Journal, and the other newspapers, and they literally fabricated everything as if I turned myself in. I didn't turn myself in. When I was let out of jail, they said, you go to Nevada and you get a criminal lawyer, or you're going right back to jail and you'll never see David again. And you come up with all of those computers and you come up with all those notebooks. And they told David the night before I was let go, the night before Thanksgiving, you don't come up with the notebooks and you'll never see her again. And they conveniently planted them in a linen beach bag in an open closet. You know, my house was under construction. We were redoing the master bedroom, and there was no closet door. Every other piece of paper was strewn across the house. And here's a beach bag with my initials on it, stacked to the top with the folders that were in those 2 desk drawers. Not 2 offices, not 30 years. You know, it was planted there. And again, Michael Hugo proved that in the very little time he had to do discovery. They watched my house. They hunted me down between September and whatever time in November. And they just fabricated these crimes in order to shut me down forever. So I'm full on bankrupt. It said I owed $15 million. When you commit intellectual property theft, you'll never work again, not even at Starbucks, you know, because you'll steal the money. So the director, everything I'd ever had, you know, was lost. And worse, you know, right after that, you know, they published the fraud that was the multi-center study with Ian Lipkin as the last author that Tony Fauci stopped. When against all odds, I'm going through all this in the summer. I'm doing retrovirology by telephone. Frank's not even good enough with a camera to take the picture of the microscope and show me on a computer. We're biologists. And I said, that's what you're looking for. And he's like, this one? And I said, that's what you're looking for. That's what you're looking for. And then we would have gotten them positive. And Fauci stepped in and said, it's contamination. It's all contamination. We're stopping the wasting of government money now, as if these patients didn't deserve the entire study to be finished. And then he told Frank that they'd use all the cohorts equally. So it was pretty clear that because they'd done thousands of samples, it was now contamination. Harold Varmus committed fraud because he added the synthetic infectious molecular clone. So that changed the study design because we couldn't do our isolation because the molecular clone grows so much faster, like 100 times faster than the natural isolate. So we couldn't afford the contamination. So we didn't do that part of the study. And against all odds, it was still positive. They published the paper in September, October of 2012. As I'm going through this, this bankruptcy stuff, forced into it. You know, not even knowing what's going on because I can't read a paper. I can't get on the internet. I can't do anything. I have only what Frank Rossetti tells me. They apply the statistics. They publish this paper. Our names are on it because, you know, I don't have a choice. I'm being told everybody knows I was told 3 times by Ian Lipkin, and so was Frank Rossetti and Tony Fauci, that everybody knew there were other of these family of viruses in these people, just not that virus in the patients, just not that sequence. You could only look for that sequence because that's what you said. No, that's not what we said. That's what Bob. So it's this kind of wrangling. And then I said they had a super secret conference call on when the study was unblinded. So you've done like 1,000 in each center. You know, we test from each clinical sample, and Harvey Alter and Shai-Xing Lo, they do their test and we do our test. So that when it's unblinded, it's super secret. There are only 3 men on the phone: Harold Varmus, Francis Collins, and Tony Fauci. And they're on the phone and they say, there's no association. And I'm sitting in my car in front of LAX. And it's another time when I'm almost crying. And I said, that's okay. There's still 6% in the controls. There was 6% in the patients. There was 6% in the controls. And I said, that's okay. That's still 25 million Americans who we can prevent from ever getting disease. So what did the paper say at the end of the abstract? There was no evidence of infection, and clearly table 3 of that paper shows evidence of infection. So, you know, it was the end of my career. Never heard from Ian Lipkin again, who had promised me a job. Within weeks, Tony Fauci awards him $34 million to create a center for discovery and diagnostics. And who did he fund with that money a few years ago? Oh, the North Carolina group working with the Wuhan Chinese, looking at coronaviruses as they've done the last 10 years. So Tony